My name is Veronika Witte. Today I'm the director of the Galerie Nord, Kunstverein Tiergarten in Berlin. I'm coming from the countryside, from a little village, born in the 60s. So you can imagine what it means, maybe. Some of you can imagine what it means. I grew up in a very big family. I have 3 brothers and 2 sisters. So I know what it means to share. My background is a real strong Catholic background, educated really strongly Catholic, from my grandma, from my aunts, and from my parents who were all living in the same house. My first own room, like Virginia Woolf said, I had was 20 when I wasn't, 19 when I didn't live anymore in my village. The Catholic background is maybe very important because I was educated strongly moralistic. Your individual wishes were not in the front. It was a community, which was the most important, and the other. So I was quite engaged, started with 14. I had my first feminist girl group. It was, I think it was in 1976 or something, when the book from Alice Schwarzer appeared. I don't know how this book arrived to my village. I don't remember. The Little Difference, it was called, Der kleine Unterschied. And maybe I felt something that it was, my body didn't feel well in this village, or my thing. So my mother was a kind of very independent person, very strong, and she was the head of the workshop. My father we had a workshop. My father is a smith, so I'm coming from a working background, let's say working. But we had a big workshop, and my mother was the chef of the workshop and also from the shop. So she was strong, but on the other hand, the education of me and my sisters was really different to the education of my brothers. So just to give an example, the brothers had a sausage on the plate which was big like this, and the girls like this. Very simple image, but it explains a lot. So somehow, I think being a girl or having the position of a girl in the family was quite important for me. So I forced my father to learn soudé. In French, it's soudé, working with metal. So with 14, I could work with metal, and I think it was the first time also that I was very attached to material. I'm really a person who is really attached to material and the intelligence of material and the sensitivity also of material. So in the end, what can I say? My way is a little bit complicated, also school-wise. So in the end, I studied pedagogy, and for me it's important maybe the development from being a girl to maybe, let's say today, an independent woman is to meet in the right time the right people. It was the most important thing that I met some women in my life who guided me in a direction. Maybe I would never sit here today. I would be a nurse somewhere in a little village hospital. The idea of my mother. And so I became an artist after studying pedagogy. I became an artist, and my thesis in '84, I wrote about the socialization of women and the, how do you say, what it does to the content of the artistic works. So it was the same time when I started, when it was clear that I wanted to become artist. So I made interviews, like you do now with me. I made with artists on '84, and I had 4 books. That was all what was existing in this time. And I compared it with the aesthetic education from Friedrich Schiller. So what does it mean to be educated aesthetically? So I jump a little bit, I have the impression. So yeah, in the end I became artist. I studied sculpture, so the material is, and I opened myself to the theater because I was also very interested by theater. So I was always working in between fields, and also in between context of realization art, presenting art. So I started to be a performer until my 32nd year, where I was standing on stage and dealing always with the question how body is represented. Female body is represented, and so yes, the oppressions, I think for me the biggest oppression was education, school education, and the access to education. For me it's as important, the access also to education for girls. So and because if you don't get it early enough, it's very difficult to get it later. You never, and when you're coming from a working class, my parents really did everything that you can. 5 of the 6 children studied. So it's really rare, in the 70s and 80s it's really rare. And we are quite musical family. But so you have to find other ways of educate yourself. And for me, I think it was, in a way, what you do now. It's meeting people, oral histories, getting informed with other ways of life, and seeing women who are courage to go out of their comfort zone, which influenced me the most. I think if there wouldn't be 2, 3 women, one of the women you know in Paris, she saved me from a really male, what can I say? Yeah, how can I say it? I would have stopped to study if she wouldn't have been there. I don't say her name, but she knows who it is. Because I was working in between fields of performance, classic sculpture, and other kind of sculpture. So, and the professor told me, tu es comme une chienne qui fait pipi partout. So this is a word which really, it's still in my head today. And then I said, from this moment I knew, in my country, the last generation who compared human beings with animals was during the fascism. And for me, I knew, and then I went out of it. And for me, I knew, only with the help of her, I continued to having the right to be the chienne qui fait pipi partout. And that's what I did in the end. I did my performances, I won prizes, I went really in different countries of the world. I worked for Robert Wilson. we got the only permission worldwide to do Einstein on the Beat. So I did a lot of things artistic-wise. And the mission for me was today, I think I was thinking, not to hide anymore where I come from a kind of working class, which was difficult to get the education. And when you are suddenly in places not to have any more the feeling that you have not the right to be on this place. Because when you're not educated like this, when you suddenly in upper class or more educated places, I know it from a lot of women who come from working class, they always have the feeling that they have not the right to be there. And today I would say, long time I said, I'm a victim of the school system in Germany, which is a fucking system, which is divided in three very, very class system. And today I would say I'm not a victim anymore, I overcame it. So this is for me very important to say about my background. Yeah, maybe about yeah, first it's easy. I'm living with some interruptions since 98 in Berlin. I'm living alone. I don't have children. It was not a choice. It is like this. And I cannot say that I'm doing directly doing something to the neighborhood personally. Maybe I have to do it in between private life and professional life. I think here with the Galerie Nord, which I'm working since nearly 6 years now, as an artist and artistic director, which is also a special combination. We try to open as much as we can to the neighborhood, confronting the neighborhood here in Moabit, which is quite, we have nearly 80–90% migrations here, to themes of art and society which we like to show with artistic language. I would say it's a language. And I try to do a lot for kids here. We have a kind of education program. We are working with different schools here in the neighborhood. And we try to transfer for example, here with this Queer 80s, we do a workshop with young people between 14 and 15, what is a queer identity and what is a punk. So we do photo workshop that they can inszenieren in Germany, put themselves on stage to change their identity and playing with what we think, what is female or male, or our cliches, cutting the cliches. So that's what we are doing. And in the neighborhood also once a year we do a festival here, an art festival, and which is open to everybody. This is everybody can participate, from the flower painter, I call it, to the conceptual artist, and we open the neighborhood to all the artists in the streets and in the ateliers. Doors are open so that everybody has access, free access to culture and education. The free access for me is very important. And yeah, this, I think I'm to create spaces for communication. I think I do it since, even as an artist I did it. I had a project space in Berlin. We had this big space which some other people, this community of this big space, Staatsbank Berlin, where we created so open spaces for giving a platform for different voices of art language and combine it. It was always a big issue for me. Yeah. How do I engage with my territory? I have problems with the term territory. Yeah. I feel it's when it, especially when it becomes a national territory, I have difficulties. I try to open it with working with artists from abroad. Bring it, I open, and also personally to have friends from all over the world. I don't care what kind of religion, I don't care about gender and sex, I don't care who is loving whom and who loves whom, I really don't care. For me it's something which comes from here, and this is the most important. And for me it's important the humanistic side of the other person. I think every commitment is personal. We can't, and if in the 70s or 80s, if the private is political, also your personal commitment is a political commitment. So, and I think we always come from ourselves to see injustice or justice, or and it's always related to our own experience of what is justice, what is emancipation or equality. Oh, my English is sometimes limited to explain what I want to say. As an artist, I was always interested to enlarge the borders of one medium. That's maybe also the reason that I always worked in between the fields, in between sculpture combined with video, then working with dancers, with musicians, and creating big installations. So I never could probably respect a fixed form, which is a territory maybe, or a terminated. So all the plastic forms which I think I created were always open to another field. And also in the sense of research, what a kind of body is. I think for me, artistically, one of the biggest issue was when the DNA code was decoded, let's say, and when I heard the first time the ACTG, and it was written in a newspaper. And because I was always fascinated by making portraits of people in an enlarged way, of course, not affirmative, not rebuilding. And then I thought, wow, this is a total portrait of a human being, but we don't have any exegesis to read it. We don't understand. So this openness of what is a portrait, what is representing what of a human being. And so it became a very strong issue on my work for years, that I started to work about the image about our own body, but confronted with that our body is not a destiny anymore. We can create our bodies, not only in daily life, but also in deeply genetic life. So it means also ethically, it means what is a human being and what is the right human being. Who says, why can't I have big red ears like I have now covered under my hair because I'm nervous? Who decide when my parents wanted to decide that I have very big short legs, I would have it now. So we have the whole moral thing, which is includes it. I was totally fascinated about. I'm still, but so I did this huge research about this a portrait with questionnaire, which were ending in the end in sculptures, and I'm still working on it. So this is maybe who I'm speaking to. In the end, I give a shit. Maybe not. Maybe I'm speaking to everybody who wants to listen to me. And I don't know if I still want to convince people. I always wanted because I was very engaged politically in the church and everything. I always wanted to convince people to do the right thing and to say the female has the right thing in the church, and here we are and we don't go away. And but the church didn't want me, so I didn't want the church anymore. So maybe today to whom I'm speaking, I cannot answer. I don't know. Maybe to the people who wants to listen to it, just. Well, it's not a bit, I don't have a political group or whatever. I try really to speak, to offer. And if somebody wants to listen, then listen. And I don't think anymore that I can change anything. Practically, I can say that this being now as an artist here, the artistic director now, gives me an opportunity to maybe change or make some little things better. So that I really try with the program here to show as much women as possible. No pay gap between the artists. To show really also voices, I say no, really voices from really marginalisierte Stimmen, and it's so difficult to pronounce. And for example, what I do, and since I'm here, I offer the first institutional solo exhibition to female artists in Berlin, which they didn't have until then. For example, Käthe Kruse. And it's really interesting how long it takes that certain, and especially for artists who are working between the fields. For me, it's really important to offer this to them, to give them this 300 square meters, do carte blanche, do what you want, let's work together. And so I worked until now with 3-4 women, artists, female artists, and just to give them the platform to show their really rich intermedia work. Because normally a lot of these artists, I know it for myself, you are always falling in between. You are not in the theater, you are not in science, you are not in painting, and you are maybe a musician. So I try really to give them a platform to present their personal work, and I call it Grenzgängerinnen, borderline women. So I do it, if possible, once a year. With Corona it was a little bit possible. And I'm a little bit somebody who, if you give me a no, I start to work. Yeah, this is maybe one commitment and one practical thing, and I hope that I can make a publication with this. And also when Corona started, then when I saw that a lot of opera friends, singers, musicians couldn't work, I said, where is the voice? What is happening to the voice? So in the end, this is what was the initial point to make this 2-year program about voiceover. So this is my commitment, what I'm doing, and yeah, and my commitment is also, I grew up coming back to my family, really Catholic was moral, and the moral was also that everybody is equal. My parents were simple, but in the way they had a kind of very emotional intelligence. And for me, this is still today, I hate racism, I hate homophobic, I hate everybody who cannot respect others' ways of living. I don't have to be friends with them. But today I don't want to convince them anymore. I just try to do with the work here and offer another perspective, an open perspective on art and culture, and I think culture and art is never outside of society and always reflects on society and also on the questions of society, and we have to think about it with what we are doing here. We cannot be only in our little bubble, but my language is, I'm not a politician, my language is doing it with my artistic work and with the program I do here to offer hopefully something which is that opens the mind. Well, that is my commitment. Of course. Yes, I'm a feminist, I think. Maybe, yeah, and yeah, I'm a feminist, and I think whatever it means, I think I'm a practical feminist. I do it out of my practice, and if somebody goes against a woman, I'm there. When I started to be feminist with 14, I always thought feminists are ugly. What they told us, feminists are ugly, don't get a husband, and because they are hysterical. And today I would say, yes, I am hysterical when I see injustice against male, female, diverse people. Even if I'm not PC, I'm not a PC person. not always in speaking, because I like to provocate, but inside, yes, I'm total PC, and I'm a feminist for, yeah. When it comes to be feminist too, when feminist means fighting, listening, of course, but also fighting and putting your head out of the window, so living also with the consequences of what you say, then yes, I'm taking the consequences for what I'm saying, and I do it also in front of people when I see injustice. And this is for me feminism, to fight for justice for everybody who needs it. Really inclusive. When you say we have this famous word, diversity, but yeah, it's inclusive. It means to be inclusive, and then feminism is a wonderful thing.